all of us are at a junction right now because of this entire post-pandemic scenario where we don't have anybody babysitting us, you know. So what is happening is, in my mind, I look at my employer as my parents, and an ideal parent should look out for his or her children. And also this word that, work is your family, and today all of us are waking up and knowing, okay, work is not my family.
Reality check, wake
Yes.
up and smell the coffee.
Absolutely.
I think one of the words that has been really gaining currency, or we hear it a lot more after the pandemic, is this layoffs, Sunita. And I think it will be good time spent because so many families are going through this, that the layoff per se as a concept and its relationship with mental health, I think we could tackle that in this episode.
Vasanti, as a therapist, I would just like to give you a glimpse of how this entire layoff period looks like. I had a call from a girl who had moved to Bangalore aspiring for her dream job, and she was looking forward to her career really blossoming here in this company. And she just woke up to her pink slip where they said, they don't need her anymore. She was sharing with me how devastating that whole experience is, and it was very humiliating for her. And she said, I just feel directionless. What next? And the same evening, I have another call where the person is like, Sunita, I don't feel like waking up tomorrow because, I've been doing HR with this company for the past 7 years, and tomorrow I'm going to lay off 2 juniors who were my personal favorites. I trained them, I groomed them in this company, and now I'm going to tell them that, they have to move out of the organization, and it is very, very painful. So this entire period of layoffs has brought about a lot of conversation in so many different forums.
But Sunita, why are we taking layoffs so badly? Meaning, if I take my father's example, the fact is that from the start of his career to the end of it, probably to his retirement, there was just one organization, and it's probably a thing that took good care of him. Like, there was no concept of being asked to go ever. Is that why, you think?
Yes. You see, we have a generation that has set an example for us as to this is how you approach your work, and this is how your professional direction would look like. And now with the entire technology and everything coming into place, we are in a phase of accelerated change. You cannot really predict how the markets behave. We do not know where the economics would end. We're all happy when it is booming. And then, you also have the other side of the coin. I think all of us are going through this dark phase with this word or this period post-pandemic is also because we are used to babysitting. We are used to being told what has to be done. We are used to waiting for someone coming from out there and then, helping us make our complicated decisions in our life. All of us are at a junction right now because of this entire post-pandemic scenario where we don't have anybody babysitting us, So what is happening is, in my mind, I look at my employer as my parents, and an ideal parent should look out for his or her children. And also this word that, work is your family, and today all of us are waking up and knowing, okay, work is not my family. Work is more like, you should be approaching it more from, it's like a cricket team. You go and you perform, you have a reason to be there. And as long as you're performing and contributing to the team's growth, things work out. But in a corporate scenario, just like how we cannot imagine our parents doing any mistakes, like, isn't it? When you hear someone speak, as a mother, how could she say it? As my father, how could he not do it for me? Right? So those deep lingering things are the same thoughts that we transfer even for our employers. As the management, how could you do it? So right now, with this entire layoff scenario, we are coming to the fact that, even big organizations can have miscalculations, can have an economic breakdown, can make wrong decisions, and, the market is always unpredictable. So this is an opportunity for us to liberate ourselves from this whole, desire to be taken care of, pampered, and to be looked
reality
after.
check, wake
Yes.
up and smell the coffee.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
I think one of the things that need to be corrected in our own minds, as you were saying, that is things can get ruthless. As in, you have this reality, accept it, then probably you're better off.
Yes, you have no other choice. The sooner you accept it, the better and faster you can get back to being functional. That is where mental health really comes into picture. How the shock is affecting you and how you're able to kind of bounce back. So, Basanti, have you had experiences like this in your career, something to do with layoff and...
Yeah, well, there have been twists and turns and some more twists. And especially when it wasn't really called a layoff back in the day, as I remember, but I definitely went through it. Now that, if you really tick some boxes, said, oh yeah, what I went through was a layoff, wasn't it? Because the only saving grace, and this was the early 2000s, Sunita, when the Y2K and it was a turn of the millennium, and probably we were entering what looked like a dazzling economy. I mean,
yes.
from a very homely kind of organization. I remember that the newspaper that I worked for didn't even have the word HR. It was just like, okay, everybody, it's a nice kind of happy family. And then I moved into something which was a .com. Remember that whole .com?
Oh, yes.
And we had, very snazzy offices. We could get our own coffee and not tell the attendant, and who would probably surface if he's in a good mood. You just went to the machine, got your coffee, and things looked so rosy. And suddenly I realized, okay, you're calling your so-called boss by his first name. There was no sirring and ma'aming kind of thing. And everything looked pretty rosy until one fine day when, forget about the rosy job, there was no job. The company shut shop. Then you knew where all that paisa was going. All the very lovely, fancy couches and the cutlery. Because the business model, we were told, was, it had just gone boom. The only thing that made it feel better was that it was not just one person, it was the entire workforce. We just entered the office and then we saw a very impersonal bulletin board saying that dash is having to shut down management. Apologies.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. However, coming to the next part of your question, which is that how did I, let's say...
what was your biggest takeaway from that event?
The biggest takeaway is that a layoff or a work disruption is your best prescription for a pivot in your life.
Wow.
It can be a turning point. Because in my case, it certainly was. After that day, when we couldn't go back to that very fancy office, I said, okay, what do I do? And then I enrolled into a theatre class.
Okay.
Yeah. My mother, of course, said, do you have to really pay to do drama? I thought you were a drama queen yourself. And then those new skill sets somewhere came in handy. And one fine day I was invited to a radio station as a guest to speak about press freedom because, essentially all the journalism until that far. And then someone realized that I have a voice for radio. I was told that, Vasanthi, you're so radiogenic. I'm like, okay, I'd heard of
Radiogenic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like
you
photogenic. Yeah, you may look, however, but in front of the camera, you look nice. So your voice might be, however, but once you speak into the mic, your voice sounds suddenly magical.
Radiogenic.
You're radiogenic. And this I wouldn't have known had I not lost my job had I not been laid off.
So true.
And that became the starting point for me for venturing and making foray into a field which I didn't even know existed, nor was it on my radar. So radio happened, TV happened, documentaries happened, and well, here I am speaking to you on this podcast. And so I have that layoff to thank.
I think that is such a strong testimony for anyone who is listening today because they can take an insight or two from what you just shared.
Yeah. I would really, people will laugh if you say, okay, so are you kind of recommending a layoff for a career change or something new in life? I guess each one has different takeaways. I have a friend, Sunita, who I met in Delhi a few days back, and that friend said that his wife lost her job, but she could use the time to care for her mother, for whom she had not had found the time that far. So I think layoff can be terrible as well. I am not trying to kind of airbrush it and say that, okay, this is what we recommend for you. However, if you are in a position where you have been let go, then probably the idea is to not take it personally and let that be a sort of a reboot of your whole system of upskilling. Right. The person who's going through this has other emotional baggage, which of course you have laid out a bit, and we shall discuss this more. But one person I think could join us on a call at this point. We have Partho Ganguly with us, who's been in the HR industry for 40 years now and went on to co-found in 2016 the Global Workforce Management Forum. Partho, that's a lot of years in the HR industry. Welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for calling me.
So, as someone who has seen the industry for so long, would you describe to us the evolution of layoffs per se? So, because that's the topic we're focusing on.
The first encounter with layoffs was back in 2000, year 2000, when the dot-com burst happened. Those days, companies did not care to announce a layoff. They would just fire saying, citing productivity issues.
Okay.
People en masse were fired, just like that. Today, after say about 20, 23 years, companies are now very, very sensitive in terms of how they handle layoffs, in terms of how they announce layoffs, and also in terms of hiring people affected by layoffs.
Right.
Now, there is a reason why companies do not mind hiring people who have been laid off. Because first and the foremost, laid off employees available fastest. Right. Quickest. And the second reason is that if you have found a person who's just been laid off, it is best to take that person quickly so that he is still in that frame of mind where he is able to deliver as he was delivering in the previous organization. This entire thing shows the maturity of the industry, and by doing this, they are actually showing that the industry is not against people who've been laid off.
Well, Partho, some layoffs are unavoidable.
It will not happen unless it is unavoidable. Okay? No one intends to fire. That's not the idea. Business determines what is redundant. Revenues determine what stays and what goes.
Such a terrific insight.
During the pandemic, something happened which is called the Great Resignation. Now, people were resigning en masse and shopping around for jobs. Okay, so a guy would actually end up having 3 or 4 offers from multiple companies. And they would get into a position of power where they would demand maybe about 80-90% higher than the previous package that they were getting, even 100%. Companies did not have an option. If they had a skill shortage, they had to hire. So the salary bills shot through the roof.
Right.
And then we came into today's situation. Companies ended up hiring more than they actually required because they were scared that they will not get data. Obviously, when you have too many for too little, you end up pruning, right? Now, when the pruning started happening, people who could not survive in the US and had to come back got jobs in India at much more rationalized levels.
So the industry has gone through a correction.
Yes. Salaries have gone through a correction.
A layoff is no longer seen as a feedback on your merit or lack of it. Like the fact that you have been laid off doesn't mean that you were a bad employee.
It doesn't at all. It is basically redundancy in terms of the number of people that the company would have in a particular skill area.
Which essentially means that the stigma around layoffs is either kind of on its way out, or would you really say it's gone away, or in some form?
No, it's on the way out, I would rather say.
So that would be different with, let's say, older people versus younger people?
There's this gig economy that is developed. For younger people, gig work is available, which a senior guy may not be able to get in so much of volumes.
This was really helpful. Thank you, Partho, for joining us on this
My
show.
pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
That was a very good discussion, especially when he mentioned that, business decides who you get in, and revenue decides, your next course of action and who leaves. I think it was profound.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Emotional First Aid Show. If you like what you heard, do subscribe and write in with your comments and suggestions. Thanks again for watching.